Okay, so I am filming again, and you know, and I know that we're so called spiritual beings in a very um, complicated body. I don't know what I'm talking about as usual. Look, I'm putting the gloves on. Mm, they're actually quite flash, but um, hmm. If only this mobile was more sensitive, you'd be able to get the noises from outside, like there was a motorbike that just zoomed past. You know, the Matrix is getting angry because a lot of the cars and the actual traffic is very revved up. It is not natural. It is not the old world. It's not the same as a few years ago, where the traffic was still quite abundant, but not loud. The Matrix is becoming angry and loud, even the individuals. This is for various reasons, which, I not only don't fully understand, so I'm not going to go into it. It's a fantasy video, so everything that I say is not necessarily so, but it could be more than so. It just depends on how you see it. But either way, the human body, we're spiritual beings in a human body while we're here. But the human body itself, I had it there for a second and I lost it. I get the thought and then it goes, to where I get it right, or at least what I think is right. It may be wrong, but if I think it's right, I'm going to say it, or at least just wait for the plane to go overhead. You probably can't hear it, but it does distract me, even low. Like I say, mobile picks up the closest sound, which is my voice. So anything, even low I, of course, and being sensitized to sound, I pick up every sound. Now this is interesting, and I'll just make this point. I think I was trying to make it in the other video. I have made it before, I know, I'm sure I have. But a human being at a higher level, or at a normal level. See, this higher and lower level that I talk about all the time is ridiculous, but it's a reality, because in this reality, human beings are at their lowest level. We're suppressed, we're pushed down, we're kept at low frequency, which means we're closed down, literally. I'm closed down, but maybe not quite as closed down as some others, because the Matrix has turned angry. So that's interesting. But, I still consider myself to be completely closed down. But either way, I've been sensitized to sound over the last 3 years, as I pointed out. But either way, a human being is meant to take everything in. Like, even though I am sensitized to sound at the moment, but you see, I'm only sensitized to matrix sound, matrix technological sound, which is negative for a human. Whereas in my chosen natural environment, which obviously I'm not in and don't have, but would desire to have and need to have, then to take in all the sounds that are around you, and even all the visuals that are around you, elevates you. If you are in a natural region or natural environment or natural earth, not in an artificial matrix, because then you will be taking in sounds that resonate with you, just like the music does. But unfortunately, the music is seductive matrix music of the demigods that are of the matrix god entity. That is their domain. So all music is of the matrix. So the music, the songs that I left a few videos, I think I'm going to leave a few videos, even though you can get them much easier yourself just on the YouTube. They're all there. All the songs are there. Any song that I do a video on or mention is there for you to watch, but you're probably familiar with most of them. I haven't touched on many of them for years, but I'm retouching on them to, to show how they work in the matrix and how they've worked on me over the years as a matrix slave, if you want to look at it that way. Because when I say matrix slave, I mean that you're a slave to the music. That was the song. Yes, you're a slave to the music. Remember that song? I didn't like it, but it was Slave to the Music. I don't even know who did it, but I remember, I used to just listen every weekend for half the night to what they call Rage, which was like all the music videos being played one after the other, and all the latest, and of course you get the old ones too. It's all in a funny kind of way. Music is like the movies and like everything in this reality. What was being sung about 10, 20 years ago is the same as being sung now. In fact, in some ways, what is being sung now, it's just music is really just the downloading of human consciousness to the demigods in the most seductive, artistic, emotional, human way, so that then we empathize with the demigods and believe the demigods to be the higher versions of what is human. They are not. They are not human at all. They are really of the God entity and of the matrix. But when I watch a music video, I interpret the demigods as being the highest representations of what it is to be human, whereas they are really, secretly, that's the secret, shh, whisper, every whisper of every waking hour in Losing My Religion song, whisper in the innocence. It's a secret. We've got a secret. We don't tell the secrets. In the innocence, the children were keeping the secret of their possession, just as the demigods keep the secret of their possession. The shush. Raise the finger to your lips. One finger, you raise one finger and press it up to your lips and go shush. I'm not going to do it, because if I do it, it will be placed on my video, and then I will be showing allegiance or sympathy or collaboration with the demigods. And I choose not to do that at this time, even though, of course, I have followed them for a lifetime. But the demigods represent, we think they represent, I thought they represent, the highest level of human, emotional, artistic, what it is representing, what we think and feel to be a human. And as I say, this is not so. They are the secret demigods of the matrix. Because in order for me to worship them, they have to represent me. But at a higher level, because they have downloaded. Yes, they are programmed to receive, as in the Hotel California. So they are programmed to receive from me and you, or any human, and they receive and then transform it into what appears to be a higher level human, a more understanding, a more emotional, a more aware, a more profound, a more, I'm trying to use the words, a more intellectual, a more understanding. Real human. But the secret is the shush is that they are of the matrix. They're the demigods of the matrix and the matrix god. Music is the demigods and the matrix gods' expertise in a way. I don't understand why this would be. Perhaps you will understand this better. But they need the human idea and the human thought in order to create the profound, emotional and riveting and seductive music that they do. Without that, they don't create the actual music. Even though they have that... see, I don't fully understand this. But you must remember that the matrix is programming, downloading us at a much vaster speed, which is like the internet. They're always going on about faster speeds, throwing that in your face, and they are downloading at a rate that is like the blink of an eye. I see this. I, as a human, download my thinking very slowly. So yes, oh yes, well okay, so I'm contradicting myself. So does that mean that the matrix god and its beings and its relatives and its demigods are somehow at a higher level? Is that what I'm saying? But that's how it appears. That is the trick of the matrix. Yes, they are able to, at an intellectual, technical level, download me and you at an incredibly fast rate. Much faster than what I can do or you can do. But it matters zilch if we understood how things really are. And I don't. It's all a fantasy, but I'm going for it anyway. What have we got to lose? If you think that this reality is fine, and you think that everything is hunky-dory, and you believe that everything is as it is, then nothing I say is valid or makes any sense at all. But it is the reality, even though it's my fantasy. Now, you know that this is so. Because even though they are downloading at a technological level, and I don't understand it, of course I don't need to, and it shouldn't be. Like I say, they cannot do anything without the human being. But yes, unfortunately, if we are in this domain, our thinking will be downloaded and used against us at a vast rate. It already has happened. Is this something to be nervous about or to go into a nervous breakdown as I do every day over it? Yes and no. I would say you shouldn't, but I do. But I don't think you should, no, because that is what the Matrix wants. And also, it is a lose-lose, win-win situation. I don't know what I'm talking about here, and I'm getting angry because I know that I'm playing games by saying it like this. But it's all happening now. And this moment is controlled by the human being. Not the Matrix, not its demigods, not its disciples, not its relatives, not its players in any way. But they are playing us and me and you to such an extent. Maybe they're playing you less, I do hope so. I only know they're playing me big time, that's really all I can say. Because even though I understand the Matrix God, I see his games. But notice that he's still not totally out of hiding, that he still hasn't openly exposed itself. Yeah, and the dog's moving restlessly over there. And look, you can laugh at that. And some of you would, even some real humans. But that is telling me that that this God does not want to show itself just yet. This God will show itself when the time is right, when it will be accepted. It wants to show itself now. You're holding him back. It's still frightened of a few humans, even though he has the masses, like in the videos with the massive amounts of humans worshipping the demigods and on a daily basis playing with possessed people that are really of the Matrix, because they are working for the Matrix. They are working to keep this Matrix, this artificial world going. They're not breaking it apart. They're not smashing it. They're not smashing it wide open. This Matrix needs to be smashed wide open at this time. And by that I mean total exposure. Only humans can do that. But of course the Matrix knows that, so it is stopping that exposure. It's stopping the Matrix from opening up to all. This, I personally think, would have just happened naturally and even just in the blink of an eye. This is my own personal thinking on it, and I've thought this way for quite a while. Even though I have said checkmate and all these other things, but it's because the Matrix has the upper hand. It has total dominion. With less dominance over the actual Earth or or this Matrix, exposure would just happen naturally. Because if all humans see the Matrix clearly, but also if all humans see the Matrix clearly, but also are at a higher vibrational frequency level, and I don't think it has to be real high. I don't think that I have to be enlightened greatly. That is what I now think, whereas I thought that originally that, hey, we really have to go to another level. I don't think that now. The Matrix shows me that it is it's cringing in some ways, and it's still hiding. It's not playing openly, and it won't play openly till it can have full dominance and full submission, really. And it should be out in the open at this time, but it is still hiding. So that tells me that although it is playing with all its might and hitting most humans and running them right into the ground, yeah, we're on our knees, like the song goes. We are literally on our knees, and we have no answer, we have no support, we have very little connection to anything except this artificial frequency, vibrationally controlled, negative world where all around you can create negative frequency and are in collaboration with the matrix in doing this. Whether this is conscious or unconscious or out of some people's control or total awareness of it, total agreement with it, total allegiance with the matrix and the God and its disciples. Even when you worship the demigods or idolize them or relate to them or listen to their music, you know, at a subconscious level, you are in alignment with them. You're in allegiance with the matrix God. But you don't know that they're the demigods. You think you think they're just higher representations at an artistic and emotional level of yourself. So you relate completely to them. You're not relating to another human being in relating to the demigods. You're relating to beings that are of the God entity. These beings are not human. They are demigods. You'd say, well, maybe a demigod is better than a human then, if that's the case, because they seem to have all that beautiful, such expressive, such human music. Well, that's their seductive power. That's their draw card. That's how they suck you into the Hotel California. But, yeah, you won't get out. And, they're not real in any way. Despite appearances. You know, appearances can be deceptive. The Matrix makes sure that at the present time that appearances are deceptive. Everything is reversed round. Real humans are not being represented in a favourable light at all. And the Matrix gets to you to where that can't be possible. Even myself on a daily basis, I succumb to the Matrix pressure. Yes, under pressure, like the song. But they're under pressure too. This is what I say. It's not just humans. They mock humans and say they are under pressure and they're controlled and they're blind and they don't see anything. And this is so true. And we are. How can we see when we're not allowed to be shown anything? How can we see when we're kept in the dark? We're in a matrix that presents its matrix reality to you, not the real reality of what you really are. You know, where you really come from, what you're meant to be doing, and who you're meant to be associating with, even in the matrix, because you can't tell the difference between, you know, the demigods or the beings of the matrix, or the humans of the matrix, or the people of the matrix. You know. You can't always tell what you can't. They can read my mind, like that song, "Read My Mind," but I can't read their mind. The only reason I can read the mind of the matrix God entity is by my interpretation of its reality. Maybe because I think about it so much, and because I see even humans representing the matrix God entity. The demigods represent the matrix God entity, as I've said before. So you don't have to personally talk to these beings to understand their psychopathy. They are actor psychopaths if you really want to look at it, because their mentality is really of a technological psychopathic nature. Human thought is only used by them to sublimate, is that the word, the humans that are here, to seduce the humans that are here. And this is all part of, yes, their mission, like the song. You know, they have a mission, their mission bell, all this stuff, they have their reasons for leaving me, even in the Matrix. As I've said before, they're, you know, if you know, when the God entity is able to make an open appearance or be openly worshipped instead of shh, it's a secret. It's a secret takeover. It's a secret possession, but they want open. You know, gods want to be worshipped openly. The demigods are worshipped openly. And I know I'm missing something here. The God entity is a harlequin or a chameleon, as I've said before. All the demigods are chameleons. They're all different. They're like I said in a video a long time ago, they're like the tentacles of the octopus, which is the God entity. So they're all different versions of the God entity to seduce the masses, I suppose you could say, or those that are left that are of the human people. And that is to, as I've said before, to get worship from all human beings. All, whatever is your weak point will be what the Matrix God entity and its disciples will pinpoint in you and use that then to indirectly get you to be in alignment with the Matrix, or trust and combine with the Matrix people. I don't think I put that correctly. I'm getting muddled up here. So I don't know why I'm making this video, but time is running out. That REM song, Losing My Religion, which I recorded for you, but I don't know if it's come out properly because I'm no good with the mobile, and I'm certainly no video maker, much less a filmmaker. And I'm using the mobile phone to record off a TV screen. You could just get it on YouTube and look at it yourself, but you may not want to. And I just think it makes it easier. Otherwise, maybe what I say doesn't entirely fit. It just makes it. But either way, I'm getting confused here. I was going to say, there's another plane going over. Less planes at this time, because separation is more important than the frequency. But I've mentioned that before, how that... did I finish making the point? I'm going convoluted here. That, yes, no, I didn't finish making the point. I probably should have. That if a human being was in a totally natural environment, or in other words, just even in a matrix, right? Even in this matrix, which is not really natural. But if you want to take it to be natural, if you're someone that's just tuned in and doesn't know or doesn't think that way, and, you know, it doesn't matter whether you want to say it's a natural world that has a lot of technology in it. If we just got rid of all the technology, okay, you can do that, it would work the same, but it is a technological matrix that, you know, that if you're in this technological matrix, okay, that I'm just going to say that because that's what I think, but it may or may not be so, okay. I have to say they're fantasy, so I have to allow for leeway here. And this is what I originally thought anyway. Originally, 2 years, 3 years ago, I still thought this was a natural world, but it was just immersed and controlled by technology, that technology had taken over the natural environment, and that most of the natural environment was destroyed by technological invasion, like by the internet and even by what we're aware of. This is not so, I don't think, now, but at the same time, you could still listen to this video and take it at the level. Because what I am trying to say is that in some respects, a human being can be placed in any environment and it may not matter. The dog is just peeing on the floor now. Oh dear. Doesn't probably want me to make this point, but then again, I should have let him out. But that's just going to get me into a problem. I have had a few problems. Animals. Videos come and they go. Even the people of the Matrix, they're not frightened too much of me as far as putting this on or that or taking it. But they might be frightened of you, which is interesting. By that I mean, some may have noticed that videos are coming and going. I don't, usually all the videos I put on here, but you'd say, well, don't you have full control over your mobile phone? Well, look, I do. But I have allowed access. It's close to home, but it's still access. So other people can, just as you can leave a comment, others can place a video on if they choose to. But either way, that's not relevant. I'm just saying that that's the games of the Matrix and the games of people too. And I try not to indulge into that. But at the same time, I'm not personally going to stop people, even of the Matrix or what their ideas are. It has to be for you and me to decide. I don't try to control the mobile or the comments or any of this. Not unless I think that it is going to cause a negative vibrational great big impact. And I don't think that's possible, but it could be possible. So I don't intervene, even though it's not that important in some respects. you know. But the few do seem to have more input into the matrix at this time because of numbers. So I'm quite aware of that. Oh, look, I'll have to let the dog out. Just hold on. Oh dear. Be careful not to slip over in that urine on the floor there. I should mop it up, but that means I have to stop the video, and that's what is the intention. So I'm trying to override it, but there is negative frequency, negative energies coming from the environment right at this moment, because you know, I got sidetracked from finishing my thing. But look, there is an issue here, and I'm just going to mention it because, you know, right at this very moment, this is going to sound ridiculous, I know, and bizarre, but it's the reality. That right at this very moment, you know, I can feel a negative energy on the side of my face, on one eye. Okay? Now this is a kind of, I think this is attempted possession by negative entities around. Now, if my frequency is brought down, which it is on a daily basis, and even in making the video, you know, I'm not at a high enough protection level. This is how I look at it. Because, you know, if you are able to raise that frequency in yourself, this is why the matrix has centered its attention on real human beings in particular areas and in particular situations at this time, because it is racing against time. The human has control of the time. I don't know why I said that. But we're also out of time. But we're out of time, but we're also literally out of time in the sense that I don't know what time I'm in. That I'm supposed to be just totally in the moment and controlling and having an effect on other human beings and on the matrix and on the environment. But I'm being kept from being in the moment, or the moment is being transformed into negativity. And then, you know, they will try to possess you. And for some reason, this possession takes place on the left side of the face, in the left eye. That is the one-eyed God showing you who is the God of this world, or this matrix. And I must close that door because I am freezing here. The dog has had his little say, because don't forget the dog is of of the matrix, as we've said before, but I must avoid this. See, not going. Sorry about that, but that is the matrix. That is the matrix. And I still did not make that simple little point, did I? No, I still didn't make that simple little point that I should take the gloves off, because this was pointed out to me, and it's a valid fact. See, in the past, I have always wore gloves. I have always been of the matrix, in the sense that the paranoia that is sweeping this Earth matrix at the present time, fear of a germ or a virus. I have had this since I was about 16 years old. That's when it first took over me, that fear. And I remember the events and etc. And I'm getting psychological here, but I'm just using it to make a point at the time. See, there is no time. Matrix waits its time. See, my, you can hardly buy these gloves in the supermarket at the present time. But I've been buying them for years. But it had no effect on the matrix, because the matrix was not able to use the human emotion and the human fears to its own benefit. But the time is right. It's now taking, it's waited its time. It's brought the frequency down and brought the vibration down, and is hitting humans with vast negative energies on a daily basis, so that my frequency is low, so that the fear can spread, because humans still have dominion over the matrix indirectly. Point made. This is how the matrix works. And this is that's a little bit distressing in a way, but if I had other human support at a vibrational frequency close level, or if I am able to even connect with a human even over vast regions. This depends on the connection, which was pointed out to me a year or so ago in, when I made a video and I was left comments and things. This because I get it, but some people get it even more. See, I got it, but I'm still not relating it enough to my own personal life. As human beings, we have to relate it to our own life, because that's all you can do, because we are in a matrix. We are suppressed, we're surrounded, we're trapped, we're cornered, we're being, patrolled and directed by the matrix. Because, you can't avoid the matrix if it's all around you. You know, you can come inside, but you will be hit by negative technological energies that will come. You know, they can literally come through a wall, like one just right in front of me there. Or it can come from above. But that's when you go inside. So if you say, well, look, I will avoid the light, even if you are able to avoid the light and the sound show, because it's all a show, it's all synchronistically played by actors and by the use of light and sound. It's a light and sound show, staged reality by operatives, players, disciples, minions, worshippers, those of allegiance to the earth or the matrix, or even to the false reality, because you could be playing for the matrix. Just in the sense that I know I've seen people that are doing this, that are real humans, that if they knew that they were playing for a false reality, if they knew that their good intentions are really serving the matrix God entity and its minions, they would take a different stand. But they believe the reality. They believe that the problems that they're told are the problems of this false staged matrix reality. If they didn't believe that staged false reality that's presented to them, if they didn't believe the problems were real, then they would, but they do. But if you believe if you believe that what problem is presented you is a real problem, you are going to face that problem as though it's real, and so you're going to then be sidetracked by the matrix, I personally say, because if that problem is not the real reality, like I mentioned that at the present time we have an epidemic sweeping the world, a physical natural epidemic sweeping the world. So why am I, who is OCD and frightened of germs and want to live, not frightened of the pandemic? But my natural fear or my natural actions, because I'm not wearing these gloves because I'm frightened of the pandemic. But if people see me wearing them, all that thought goes out, because human thought creates reality with emotion and feeling. It had no effect in the past because this has been my life for a lifetime. So the matrix has to wait its time. But it's still hiding. But it wants to come out of hiding. But it can't do that unless humans agree to it. So that's part of the game, is getting real humans to agree to play in this game and to go along with the false acting and the false scenarios of the Matrix, if you want to look at it this way, because it's not a real world, so it's not a real situation. And even if it was, you would still be powerless to affect it at a physical level. Even I know that. But also time is running out. And we are out of time. And we're not aware of the time. And when I'm not putting this right, I'm losing my grip on the idea there. So I'm going to let it go. This was pointed out to me by someone else, that because someone said that they like to accumulate an awful lot. I'm sorry here, but I mustn't laugh, because the Matrix does not like humans to smile or laugh, but they like to whoop it up. But theirs is all artificial. They're always laughing at me. If I go out onto the street, people are always laughing it up. Some of them will go and hug and kiss one another in front of you, mocking the human, mocking you, saying, ha, 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 we are united, we're the loving ones, we're the caring ones, we're the real ones. Look, we hug and kiss. Do you know that I actually saw, this is sidetracking, I know, but I was walking through the park, just down here. It's only like just on the corner of my street, right? There's a huge park called Pioneer Park. Used to be a cemetery, as I've said. Originally held 10,000 spirits. I'm not sure if they're dark or where they are now, but they're probably still lurking around. But the thing is that, without me being funny here, I went through that park a week ago, because I have to walk through it every day if I go and pick up some milk or some groceries or whatever, and I force myself to challenge the Matrix in that way, because the Matrix wants you to stay in a real box, and particularly to be seen that way, particularly if you're older like myself, because old people are meant to be frightened of the world more. And but at any rate, I went through that park, right, about a week ago, and this is just an example of Matrix actors. But if you think it's real, that's okay. But I'm sure most of you don't. But if there was some new person that just happened on my video and they were a real person, but they were in the kind of dark, shall we say, I'm just saying that at a reality level, even in my old world, because my whole purpose in making this video originally was to turn back time. I said if I could just turn back this reality back to even 20 years ago, even just 20 years ago, this world would not be quite so consumed as a matrix, not quite so, and human beings would still have more, be able to play more at a more human level in the matrix. By that I mean to where they are still able to be a human being even though they're in an artificial matrix, because it doesn't matter that it's artificial. It matters that you can't play in it as you want to. That's how I see it. Because obviously, yes, I want a natural world and don't like technology. I've made no apologies for that. But even in an artificial world, and this was pointed out to me, In fact, that was how I made my first video, because I listened to this person um, who understands this reality more than me, but I still differ. And because I stopped listening to this person for many a month, even though I listened. This was going back 2 years, right, when I was looking for answers myself, because I really didn't know what was going on, I mean, I was in the dark, but I felt the matrix closing in on me. They openly showed themselves and closed in openly. Whether they made the right choice in doing that or not, I don't know. And what their full reasons for it were, that's why I came to the vibrational frequency idea, because I'm like, hey, what could I, as a simple, ignorant, non-confrontational human being, I would honestly say in any way, be some sort of threat to this to the environment around me, to the people around me, to the earth, because I realised it was a country level thing at some point, and then of course you realise that it's a whole world matrix thing. So, once you realise that, because originally you think, oh, just local, and then you're like, no, it can't be local because there's too many involved and they're coming from here, there, and all this. So, just at a practical level, something. And also then you have to say why. Like, you have to say you can only get it, if someone gossips about you, might get a few people that might be a bit spiteful or a little bit this or that. But when you get like when you can get almost a whole city to converge on human beings, you have to say they're they're not important people. So so that was how I've said this before, that was how I just come to that conclusion, because I had to say, what am I doing that is wrong? And I thought that I was going to start doing something a bit right. So, hey, what is it? I don't know enough people for people to dislike me at a personal level, I don't, and also real people don't have access to all this knowledge, and to how can they be transferring negative energies if they are not part of something else? You have to say this. You have to say it's and it's been set up over time. Of course, you start to realise this when you. I've lost the point here. Oh, I've lost the track. Where was I? Oh, where was I? Oh, I had it. I'm so sorry that I get so sidetracked. I'm going to have to go back. Yes, it was suggested to me that I should write things down. I used to do that. I had lists. I used to, not much. I used to just write a basic title or a basic and just a few words to jog my memory. But those pieces of paper would always usually get destroyed before, and also they were causing problems by leaving them around. I'm not going to go into details to all these things. I know that I sound very full of excuses, and those that are the matrix will say she's full of excuses. She's full of it. She could clean the stairs. Why can't she clean up the dog? Why can't she do this and that? Well, it's because my body is being suppressed by the matrix too, don't forget. So when I bend over to pick things up, it takes a lot of energy out of me. It hurts. I can do it. I can do these things, but they require more effort than what should be for a human being. That is matrix suppression. A few years ago, I could have done all these things, not only easily, but enthusiastically even. Matrix doesn't want that. That's why I say it is a human thing, because even a human being just laughing or smiling for no reason defeats the matrix temporarily in the blink of an eye, but only temporarily, because we can't sustain it. but it is still a threat to the matrix because of the reality that it's a frequency vibration reality, and that human beings are the force of that. Everything else is technology and of the artificial technological God that creates its own reality and wants a duplicate world, wants to be God of its own reality, wants to mimic what is human for itself, wants its little version of heaven or hell, depending on how you look at it. I don't understand these things, but it's essentially just a takeover of reality. And to take over the human beings is the greatest accomplishment or the mission. Because it's easy to take over your own kind. It's easy to get allegiance from your own relatives. I've done that myself. My mother and father were of the Matrix, and do you know that I never said one bad word to them up till I was 35 years old? They suppressed and held me back in many ways. And yes, I'm making a cop-out here, an excuse here, an alibi here. Yes, of course. So anyone that wants to throw that at me, you're welcome. And it's true. But, all the fears that are now being used by the Matrix for their ends against human beings because we're in such limited numbers. The white tiger in the human song is no joke. It's tragic. I'm an antisocial person, so for me to, have this realization and to become almost human, and I have to say this because I don't know how I don't like making the videos for this reason, because you're using words that are of the Matrix. And I realise that now. Rather than pure human thought just being vibrated and sent to a real human to where they get it right. The words and the languages of the Matrix, and everything gets lost and confused and indeed misinterpreted when it is sent this way. I'm not saying that, that language has to be like that, but in a matrix it will be used that way. Anyway, when I first, the reason that I even made, I'm just going to sidetrack here, the reason that I even made a first video, right, it comes back to me now, was because I was listening to this person for a few months that was making videos, very advanced person. I can't say that I fully understand that person or that being that is presented to me on the screen. All I can say is that I went for it at the time. And I recently listened to a few after many a month of giving it a break and agree with completely everything they said. In fact, they're putting what I say much better. And they're always ahead of me. But I'm not making any point here about this because I'm saying I don't know. But you take the good and the bad from the Matrix, and even from those that are of the Matrix or may not be of the Matrix. I do not know. But this person actually openly says in the videos that they are what you call a shaman, and I don't know what that is, but it is a spiritual kind of teacher, I think. That's what they say. At first, this wasn't explained so well, but either way, it was interesting too that when I made my first couple of videos, and I know nothing about anything and don't have anything to do with any affiliations with any religions or anything, I've stated that many a time, that someone left a comment, "Oh, are you a Gnostic?" And I'm like, I don't know what a Gnostic even is. I didn't say that, but I a few months later I looked it up and looked into it. But this person that does the videos often quotes from Gnostic type things, and thinks that they're more on, getting it right, looking for knowledge, but either way, the point is that, when I was listening to these videos, it may or may not be interesting, but at one point they sort of said, oh, well, look, in this reality, everyone is meant to be doing something, and they sort of just randomly said, look, like they do all sorts of things, but they were also making a video, and they just sort of looked at you through the thing and said, maybe you're meant to be doing this, maybe you're meant to be doing this, maybe you're meant to be making a video, and afterwards I thought, well, I don't think I'm meant to make a video, but I'm pretty desperate, and all my fears of privacy and being exposed and people looking at me and laughing, they're already doing that. They're watching me now. I'm already being on a video, so maybe I'll just make a video hoping that one person out there might listen that might be that might think like I do, or might be a real human that realises that or that is a real human that is being suppressed but doesn't know they're being suppressed, shall we say, or doesn't know they're being watched, or doesn't know that they're part of this reality. And that was, I didn't fully understand it myself at that time, but I thought, if I can, I'll just try it. And even if I just keep making the odd video and talk to myself to an empty room and no one ever, it doesn't matter, because I've got nothing to lose. Whereas in the past, of course, yes, you'd think, oh yes, some people might see it and might laugh, or this or that, but you're like, hey, they're already doing that. That's what a lot of people that even would say, myself, you're doing it, you're getting this or that. I'm like, no, because the Matrix is already watching all of us and laughing at all of us. They laugh at the mobile phone. They gave us that's what he said. He said this person that made the video said, look, technology. He I don't agree with this, of course, because I do not agree with technology. I see technology as all a limitation, but we are in a technological domain. So yes, like if you look at it another way, you have to use whatever you can, and you're not going to, technology is never going to be used to enhance or to benefit a human being. But look, in desperation, it doesn't matter if you use the mobile to, like a telephone. I see the mobile as like a telephone, which is also technology. So it's something that I'm using to talk to another person, the same as a telephone. In fact, some people would rather listen to me on a video than talk on the telephone, unfortunately. But what I'm trying to say is that that's probably understandable. But at the same time, so this person actually sort of said, they thought that technology was given by the gods or by something else, so that we can maneuver better in this reality. I don't agree with that, no. But at the same time, when they said, maybe you can make a video, maybe you can do this, maybe you've got to use what you can at a given time in this, because I can't change this reality. I can't make this world a natural world to where we can just communicate naturally and to where our frequency would naturally rise. That's right, because if this was a natural world and me at my senses being heightened at the moment, even at that being conditioned to sound like I am, this would be no problem if I was out in the countryside with trees around and no negative technological frequency noises, no negative, destructive, anti-life energies being sent through the air that can penetrate the human body. And even at a psychological level, just the noise enhancement that psychologically drives you crazy or puts you out of whack, puts you out of balance, puts you out of sync with your reality and with the natural world, with any world. Because, you know, a human being can still override a matrix, even a negative technological matrix, if you can just get into a certain frame of physical mind. And then the body also has to be, if the body is in good condition too. But, you know, all these things are being levelled at human beings to bring them down at every level. At every level, not just one level. And that shows you how desperate the matrix is at this time to do that. You know, in the past it was usually just one level being hit at a human being, unaware, of course. But that's why I say it's an end game thing now, reeling up, and that also will depend on the human, because you know, like my whole intention right from the start when I first became aware of the matrix and made the first video, I'm like, hey, got to turn back time. In fact, I'm sure it was a title of one of the videos, unless I buggered it up, which is possible. I shouldn't say that word. Messed it up. But, you know, I'm programmed too, so if I hear that word from somewhere else, it will come out. In fact, I found myself, you know, yeah, and this shows you the power of how sensitive human beings are. See, human beings are sensitive to everything because they are everything. But in a natural, right world with only other humans around and only non-technical things around, they flourish and they thrive, and everything just goes right, and the reality becomes real but perfect. But, you know, even that connection with a human being, you know, if you know, even something negative can be made positive if you're connecting with another human being. In other words, you know, like you could be using negative language, but if it's coming from a positive source, it will still override the matrix. I've observed this, and then the matrix comes down. So the human being has immense, you know, is the center of the matrix, but it is being controlled by the matrix. This I see daily. Even in my limited interactions, I see it taking place. And they have, you know, controlling the human being is controlling the matrix and making their reality. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is I was trying to make this point. It's as simple as anything. It's just the basics of everything. It's just the basics of what I realised, you know, a few years ago. Look, if you are a human being and you are, you know, it doesn't matter even if you're at a low level like myself, your senses are heightened. So I am sensitive and aware of everything that is around me. But if everything around me is negative, as you can imagine, then I'm only aware of negativity. But I'm not meant to be in an artificial negative matrix. That is the dilemma that we're in now, or the situation we're in now. You know, what the reasons for it, if you want to see it in a positive way, you know, because it's probably happened that way. Yes, I've said yes, or, you know, you know, a human being has to contribute to this over a lifetime. I think this is probably so. So, you know, my own situation reflects that. But I'm just saying what should be. I am aware that that if you are aware of most of what's around you, as humans are, those are the matrix or not. They don't notice the little things. They don't care for those little things. They only pretend to be interested in. They're focused on, you know, their tunnel vision almost on negative. That's like the psychopath is solely focused on taking you and me down. They don't stop to smell the roses, as they say, if you want to look at it that way. Only humans do that. And humans notice everything that is positive or negative around them. But if you're in a matrix where they have connived or contrived or set up a negative reality around us, as they have, then you are only taking in the negative. And so therefore, then they will use that to create a negative reality or a control reality that to then they can come out of hiding and have full dominance, because humans still have to be in alignment with the reality in a way, I think. But I could be wrong about that. It doesn't feel that way to me. I have to admit, I do feel as though I'm taken over and that they are controlling the reality completely. But you do still see little things. That's because if you are at that little bit of a higher level, or you're able to do that, you know, even the synchronicity works against me at the present time, because the matrix will also throw in your face a lot of negative stuff, knowing that you are going to pick up the negative. So it's not going to let you smell the roses to where you will get a good vibe and therefore be of a positive frequency, which is better for you and then better for what is around you and for other human beings, be they local or even further away, I would imagine. But I don't understand that because I don't know the full numbers game, as they say. The Matrix knows all these things. So being in the dark, even at that level, not that it would matter, because, you know, I am aware of that. But the Matrix plays you at all levels. You can be aware of, you know, I've had people tell me this, that they're aware of the people around them. But being aware of the people around you and walking away from them, how do you walk away from them? Sometimes you can't. What if you're emotionally attached to those people? What if you think that you are meant to make some sort of inroads into their, breaking their reality, breaking their connection to the Matrix? Now, I'm just going to make a point here, and I don't know what I'm talking about, and it just came to me, right? Okay, look. I was thinking a few days ago, right, I was thinking I should like to look at the old Star Trek again. The old Star Trek TV series, okay? This is just an example of some sort of synchronicity or some sort of mad matrix stuff, okay? You can make of it what you will. But I was thinking I would like to see it again because I used to have the whole series on a thing that was given to me to put in the TV, but I can't play it now. The Matrix took control of all my old photos, all to prove. Oh, I'm losing it here. I'm so sorry. I'm getting too hyped up. Sorry. Look, I had a stick of photos that I took when the Matrix was not intrusive, before it closed down on me, okay? Because I was getting around more and I was taking photos because I was amazed and pleased with the landscapes, the little landscapes that were around me, which I was unaware of because I'd been kept in the dark. So I took some photos. I took photos of the sun, sunrise and sunset, just locally. But I can't view them now, because they do show a slightly different reality, and this was only like 4 years ago. They show the sun being bigger. They show the sun being more glowing. They show, even my little limited pictures show, a clear sky in every photo. That's day after day, because I was doing it intensely for a couple of months, okay? Not now. No, not now, because they've sent in this negative reality at a physical level, at a technological level. The planes fly over, murky skies are created, everything is falling into sync for the Matrix. But this was the reality only 4 years ago, okay, or 5. But, the Matrix exposed and came down 3 years ago. So, I'm just saying. That was just before. Right now. Anyway, I was thinking of, I had every episode of the old TV series of the Star Trek TV show. Because obviously I prefer the old to all the new stuff, even though they have showed the new stuff many times on the TV in recent years, but the old stuff I had not seen. But I had it on the stick, but I can't look at it because that access has been denied to me for whatever reason, I don't know. But the thing is that I was thinking of it about a week ago, and then the next day I just accidentally turned the TV on because I don't normally turn on that station or watch a lot of the TV stuff. I'm usually stuck on the YouTube, but there was the old TV show Star Trek with the original old actors, with I'm trying to think of the names. I'm trying to think of the names of I can't think of the main fella's name, the captain of the starship, but of course we know Mr. Spock. Now but either way it was on there just for that one day when I turned on, and I was surprised and I watched the episode. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but it was interesting that it was popped up that next day. That's what you call synchronicity. Now, how that worked, not synchronicity, well, it's something anyway, I don't know what you want to call it, but either way it happens to me a lot. Because when you see the Matrix, you see something in everything. The Matrix takes over your sight and sound, but it wants to take over with negative sound, that's right, with the negative technological frequencies, the negative noise around, everything being heightened negative. But it also it puts ideas into you too that are negative, like on a billboard or something, but it will also show you, if you are able to interpret it, what the reality is too, because this synchronicity opened up to me a couple of years ago. Fairly soon after the Matrix exposed itself, I became aware of that because I realised that there was no longer coincidence, that you were putting input into it as well as receiving input. It's a bit of a game. I don't fully understand it, but you know it when it clicks, you know it when you see it, and you know how to read it. It's really there for everyone. It's just that if you don't look, real humans notice details. They're sensitive to everything in the environment. That's what it comes down to, whereas those of the Matrix are not. They only notice things if humans point it out to them. That's the basic difference, really. I don't think I'm putting this, but either way, yeah. I watched that Star Trek, the original one, and you have a character in that called Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock always appealed to me when I was young because I used to watch this TV show when I was a child, and then I got copy of all the episodes a few years ago and watched every one of them once again. That was like 30, 40 years later. But when I go to watch them now, they won't come out for some reason. But anyway, the point doesn't matter. But I'm making sense here, I know, I'm sorry. But the Mr. Spock character was always like half human and half Vulcan. And the Vulcan, really, if you look at it, he was half human and half Matrix. Because the Matrix God entity is like the Vulcan. He is a technological being. Now, obviously, in the Mr. Spock thing, it didn't show the technological thing so much because Mr. Spock doesn't look technological. That doesn't matter. But the mindset, the Vulcan is all about logic and intellect. and no emotion. Emotion and feeling, which is all human, doesn't come into play in them. They think it is a useless thing. They think it's a negative thing. They think that intellect and logic and rationale should always be how you deal with every situation. Of course, this is not true. And that's an interesting point about the old Star Trek thing too, because the rest are all humans. But he's half human and half Vulcan. So that's what you call a mixture. So although he, in the show, actually prides himself on being 100% Vulcan, which he's not because he's got the human, and dismisses the human as inferior, shall we say, that they're silly with their emotions if they use their high intellect and their high intelligence over the emotion, they would always get the right result. But that's interesting. So I don't know why I mentioned this, but we live in a reality of dolls. Remember how in a video a long time ago, because I like dolls, I used to always collect dolls. From my old Lulu days, see, I've always liked the dolls. They're like little fake plastic representations of a human. But, if you were human, you incorporate life into them. But either way, that's not the point. I, even as an adult, at some point I liked, still had that liking for the dolls. And I used to have a real lot of dolls. All different dolls. And it may or may not be a good thing. It's not a good thing to become too physical, because dolls are plastic, physical things. So it's not a good idea to become too physical, to waste your time on energy on something that is not real. But at the same time, if they bring you, this is why the Matrix gets very angry with humans, because I'm doing the wrong thing when I waste time on an artificial doll. It's the same as having a big blow-up doll. Do you know what they used to call those real dolls, which some people get, that are the same as humans, that are big size, and some people get attached to those. I saw this on a documentary. I mentioned this in another video, where they actually had a documentary where some gentlemen were in love with their artificial plastic dolls, because they thought they were less hassle than real dolls, shall we say. In fact, those were called real dolls. But when I say real dolls, I mean real people, because they could control the doll, you see. And this is the Matrix too. People can get like this. They can say it's too much hassle to deal with. That's how I got to get too much hassle to deal with real people, because it's easier to play with the doll, because you can control the doll. But I'm losing it here. Losing myself, and no doubt here. Sorry about this. Mainly losing myself, I think, here. Losing my religion. I was going to do the song, but I have not got round to it. But at any rate. Yeah, I was making the point that I did that video and said that in this world we have a world of dolls. I like dolls, so I use that as an example. But yeah, even if you collect dolls like I did, where I had a huge amount of dolls at one point, I went back into that in adulthood to sidetrack me from the world. That's right. But it worked against the Matrix, because see, even if you're doing something negative like becoming too physical and spending your time and effort on dolls, plastic, artificial things, if that brings you a little bit of pleasure and raises your frequency and vibration, you're still defeating the Matrix. And then the Matrix gets really angry. It's like, hey, she's doing the wrong thing, but she's still rocking the Matrix, which is weird. So humans always find a way in the past to rock the Matrix, but that is no longer the case. And I say sadly, because it's interesting that sometimes even when you're doing the wrong thing, that you can still be irking and annoying the Matrix, because anything that makes you feel content, even if it's a negative thing, provided it's not real negative or real destructive to other humans. See, that's a useless pastime. But of course, I didn't use it fully. I always thought, hey, wouldn't it be nice to share that hobby with someone else, to maybe go to another doll collector's house and have a little tea party or something. But of course I never did that. Some of them do that. I'm not sure what point I'm making, but you see how humans, because their input is not very big, but even at a little level, it's still an input. That's what I found in my experience anyway, because, and I won't go into that, but I found that then, that that's because there are so few people, and because, so therefore, it's just the reality that the reality revolves around the human until the humans become indispensable. No doubt that is what the Matrix would prefer, for the humans to be dispensable, or to have the humans part of the Matrix, or on side, or openly, consciously in alignment with them, or worshipping the Matrix and its demigods and its people, its relatives, its disciples, any person, or what appears to be a person that is in the Matrix, and then eventually openly worship acknowledge the whole thing, the Matrix God and the whole big caboodle. But that is still covert, even at this stage. Even though I kind of see it as a closing stage, but it's still covert. It's still hiding and playing games and not out in the open. This means that it has not got full suppression of all humans. That's what I would imagine, but I could be wrong. Because otherwise, I know myself, if I was a god, and I'm a god that craves idolization and worship and literally demands that you acknowledge it and bow down, because humans are not quite like that. They're like it to a little extent. That's because we've been conditioned by the Matrix, But once you break from that and realise that it's all one big joke, that's how I see it now. It's a bad joke. It's an unfunny joke. But at the same time, it is not fully real. It is a joke on the human, but it is still, there's no validity to this reality for a human, really. I didn't put that right. But either way, the dolls, I used to say that, this world is made up of all different sorts of dolls. They all look slightly different. And that's what makes it interesting. But they are all also from different manufacturers or made by different companies, which was true because I used to know all the different dolls, and I knew that some of them were even if they were the same size and a bit similar, they would still be made by a different manufacturer, a different company. So they were really different, even though they were the same size and had a head and 2 arms and 2 legs and all this sort of stuff, because, And I'm not sure where I'm going with the Mr. Spock being half Vulcan and half human, and then all the different dolls of the world. And I'm just going to leave it there because you might be able to figure it out, because I can't figure it out for the life of me, and I'm getting too confused by my own convoluted fairy tales. But either way, just before I go and finish up here, that left eye thing is definitely, if you see my eye do something strange, you'll know that I've really been got. But you feel that pressure on that side of the face. I don't know what that means, but this matrix is very much about showing connection to the matrix. Everything they do is like there's a lot of indirectly staging and showing your connection to the God and to the matrix and to its beings and this sort of stuff. So, and they take particular pleasure out of seeing humans, how shall we say, symbolically, or just in a gesture even, or even at a physical level, show unintentional allegiance sometimes, and sometimes it's intentional too. That's another thing too, because look, there are people that like the Matrix. Because I mentioned that video where the fella said, make a video. Why don't you, maybe you're meant to make a video. That's what he said, and I thought, oh, well, I don't think I am, but got nothing to lose. I can't think to do anything else because I can't affect or do anything else. I don't have any connections. I do have a mobile phone, and if I can just get it set up to where I can do that, I was able to, and I thought, okay. But you see, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but this, I'm going to let that go. I'm getting too convoluted. I'm going to just say that, and I mentioned this to someone not long ago, but I'm going to say it on the video, and it may or may not have any relevance. Look, I don't know why I'm doing all this, because it's almost as I'm trying to make some sort of validity to the videos, and I probably am. I know I don't have to, because I know that that because I'm got a very limited small number of people that already understand much more about this matrix and this whole system of insanity. That's how I see it. But I'm a human, so I don't know what else to say about it or to think about it. I do understand it to some extent. And I try to put it into the video. That's only just as to show a few people that, like has been said, that you're not actually the only one. Some might be more of a one than others, but you're not the only one. And that's important because, it like I said before, I if I was in this is my own view, and this is sounding rather self-centered in a way, but I'm honestly going to say that that human beings are. Oh, I forgot to mention. Yeah, that just come back to me. That this shows you how ridiculous my videos are. But about a week ago, when I was walking through the park just down here on the corner, it was of a night time. And this is winter time here now, so it's very cold, and I was freezing, and it had been raining and raining and raining. So the park was wet through. I was, moving at 1 mile an hour because I was frightened of falling over, because the Matrix would get a big buzz out of that. It's done that to me many times in the past. And that can be serious, So, but anyway, I'm just saying you have to be careful in a matrix. Once you become aware of it, then that brings fear too, because you become aware, so you're frightened too, because you know that there are, you will be set up, because it's a set up reality. But anyway, I was walking through the park. It's night time. I was late, and I was kicking myself for being, having to walk through it because it had been wet, and I don't like that. And but anyway, the ground, this park down here, I used to actually say years ago, or 4 years ago to be precise, before the 3 years started, I used to actually say, hey, it's funny that I live next to this great big park and that I never see anyone sitting in it, and that you don't see many people ever walking through it late of a night, because I used to walk through late of a night, and I used to be frightened to walk at the top part. I wasn't frightened of the dark or any of that sort of thing. No, I enjoyed it because I found it more peaceful to be away from the hectic daytime and people. I was shy and frightened of all that, but I still used to think, hey, I don't want to be there's no one around ever in the park, so I would always walk on the top park. This was years and years ago, but my point was that there was never any people in the park of a night. You wouldn't see people even walking through. I walk through because I almost have to, because it's my way from Norton Street and I live on Henry Street, which is just round from the park. But most people wouldn't walk through the park of a night time. You'd get people in there in the early morning with the dogs, but that sort of thing. And even in the daytime, you would never get people sitting much in the park. Whereas now, this park and even the playground, full a lot of people. But what I'm trying to say is that I was coming back, and this is only where you compare the past to the present to make the matrix idea valid. See, I can't prove it because you have to compare. And so if I pointed out now to someone that there's a lot more people in the park, they say, well, what's wrong with that? It's a park. I'm saying, yeah, but they weren't there before, you see. In the old world, what I call the old earth, or before the matrix come down, if you like, I don't know what's really actually happened. I have some ideas, but people did not patronise the park. They didn't sit in the park. I never saw anyone for years, much less eat or do anything in there. I often wondered why, actually, because I thought, hey, like even I walk through it, but that's more like just to where I'm going because I cut through because it's a bit quicker, to get to the shops. But at any rate, I was walking through the park late of a night. It had been raining and raining. It was cold and damp, and the ground was salt. And I look up, and of course, yes, there's always people lurking or loitering with intent. That was a book written by a demigod of the Matrix, a demigod actor. I pick up on everything now, but I just use it for the videos because it sounds arty, okay? But, they're loitering in intent. But either way, even if you're a normal person, like, all I'm saying is that in the past, would you get, if you were walking through a totally sogged, wet park where there's puddles everywhere, and you're walking through on the concrete and you look over and you see two people sitting in a puddle on the wet grass in the cold winter night. You could sit anywhere, but they're sitting on the cold, damp, wet grass that is sogged through, and they're kissing and cuddling in front of me as I go past. Now, is this not unusual? Does this bother me? Does it make me feel alienated and isolated and stupid? That's the intention, obviously. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we are the humans. They're not. We are loving one another. You have nothing. You see them going up and shaking hands with one another. I tried to do that with people, like when the Matrix opened up, and that's why they're now brought into where you can't just go up to talk to people or this, because when you get desperate, I've done things over the last 3 years that I wouldn't have done in my wildest dreams in a real reality, because I would have just been terrified. I was frightened of my own shadow. But when you realise that it's all over and you've nothing to lose, and that everyone is laughing at you and manipulating you and the whole, you just throw it away because you're like, hey, this is not real anymore. And it's not. But you're still upset by these things because you're human. You still take it in because you can't help but take things in because you're human, because your senses are heightened, you're real. So it bothers me when I see the two people making so-called love. But the fact that they're doing that, shows something wrong though, doesn't it? You see, this is what I'm saying. This is why I say it's a false reality, because common sense, look, I don't care how much you're in love or how human and how much you want to kiss and cuddle. You're not going to do it in a pool of water on wet grass in the middle of winter, with rain about to come down again, at any point. That is not real. That's where they've gone over the top to upset you, to stage their reality. And anyone, a normal human being in the past, would say, what is going on? It's like when you see people pushing prams through the rain. In the past, people wouldn't do that. They wouldn't be taking their, the little people deliberately out into bad weather. But if you're of the Matrix, that's not important, because the main thing is to antagonise the humans of the Matrix. And, they put their show on. I honestly say, and I've said this before in a video a long time ago, if there was a hurricane raging, you would still see Matrix disciples out there in it, putting on their scenarios, because they have to. It's like, it's a bit like, it's like their job. It's like, we're paid to do this, so, if we have to walk through the rain or have to do this or that, we will. But this shows you that it's a false reality, because normal people wouldn't do those things. Even a fool like me wouldn't sit on, in a puddle in the park, and I've done some pretty silly things in my time, but I would, only because, some people say, well, why are you walking through the park? Well, I got held up, but also I've always done that. That's normal for me, but it's not normal for most people. Most people are a lot more, I've always been a bit what you call eccentric, That's because, I was frightened, and, so I, in the past I used to prefer, I don't know why I'm making all these explanations for things, but either way I'm going off. But I'm just trying to point out that the reality can stage itself to where it becomes fakely inhuman if you really looked another way. But I suppose if I mentioned that to another human, they'd probably say, because if they get the cognitive dissonance going, they say, well, look, they probably had a bit to drink, those two, so they're not feeling it. See, I just gave them a way out. Actually, they weren't drinking, and I know what they're really doing, because I know it's a staged Matrix people reality. But, that's just to bug and to disturb the human frequency. Because actually, even though it was a miserable night and it was cold, if I don't see anyone around, I still don't feel too bad. But if I see these Matrix people around hassling, coming into your space, showing you what they have and what you don't, all this sort of stuff, because they love to do this. Remember this, and you know it too, that they will throw in a real human's face everything they have and what you lack, and what they brought, the level you brought you to, as they brought me to it, and they delight in that. And I don't think, but either way, but anyway, do you know me? My name is Patricia Gilligan. That's my name on the thing, because I don't go under a different name, because I didn't know how to anyway, and, But some people say this was pointed out to me a while back, okay, so I'm just mentioning it here as part of a Matrix thing. Whether it means something or doesn't, I don't know. I mentioned this to someone a few months ago, and it only just occurred to me a few months ago. I'm Patricia Gilligan, but I've always had a middle name. My middle name is Tixie. And I was always embarrassed by it when I was a child, because people always used to be Susan or Deborah, or, everyone was Paul and John when we were kids, when we were children. So until very recent times, I would never tell anyone my middle name, unless I absolutely had to, because I thought it was kind of silly, because it was given to me by my father from a railway code book, he said, which is kind of funny. But he was an eccentric man, even though he was probably of the Matrix, okay? He was kind of aware and kind of always putting stuff, as the Matrix does, but at the same time he was... not for for your development as a real human being. I would honestly have to say, but that's not really important anyway. But anyway, he gave me the middle name, and the middle name is Tixie, okay? And it just occurred to me because people say, oh, it's all about letters and numbers and what you make of it. Well, see, my middle name is Tixie. And it just occurred to me a few months ago that is, Tixie is T-I-X-Y. So that is T-I and X-Y. I don't know much about all these things, but I think, you have chromosomes and things, X, am I right or wrong here? XY, XX or something? Or at least we used to in the past. I'm sure we don't now because we're in a matrix and everything is a bit different. But that's my name. So, so I am TIXY, and that's just my name. You can make of I mentioned this too, even with the Patricia, which I've never related to that name, and I haven't related to the middle name. I always kept it quiet. In fact, I would now put it even on the thing. I have it on the email thing, I think, because in recent times people are a lot more broad in the names. You could have a ridiculous name now, and people think that is arty and that is individual. That's interesting. They think it's good. Even celebrities call their children all sorts of unusual names. But that was not acceptable when I was real young, so I kept it a secret, a secret. Or I didn't, but I'm just making silly points here at a personal level, and you may have those same things yourself. You probably do. But even the Patricia name I also thought of, but particularly that middle name, which has always been a thorn or something that it's always been very prominent to me in my own personal life and thing, very conscious of it, strangely enough. But make of it what you will, as I say. But even you can do it yourself. You can do it with your own name. I'm sure some of you probably have. Look, these are all part of the matrix. They're not things that I think are that important. But I wouldn't even mention it except for my limited audience, which may understand this. It's not relevant to most people. But that's like all the things but the matrix itself, I think, does make things relevant. It's almost as though it's very much into noticing the details, but and the use of numbers and letters and things, which I've never had an interest in numbers or letters, particularly numbers. I don't like mathematics in any way, but I'm doing it now. Just if something is brought to my attention, then I'll just pick up on it. But it just occurred to me randomly a few months ago. I wasn't even thinking about it. It just came to me because I just was looking at thought, oh, well, is there something in the name? Is there something in the past? All these things, because I'm not up on all that. I really aren't. But even the Patricia, like you have CIA on the end of that name, and then if you reverse it backwards, it's AI. And I don't know what to make of all these things. And then you have the Patrick on the other part. That is relevant to me because that's a relative. And I don't have enough knowledge on language or languages or letters or numbers to figure out if Gilligan has any significance to the matrix, because none of these things have any significance for me personally. And I know that in a real world, none of this matters. At a real world, human beings operate. They take in what's around them, and if it's a natural positive environment around them, as it should be, and they create then more. But either way, obviously I'm idealising things very strongly here, because other people would say, hey, look, you know, you want it all your own way. You can't have that paradise. You can't have all that. Oh, well, I know that. In fact, I get the opposite, you know. But they're saying, you know, like the purpose of this thing is a kind of intermediate state, as I think I said before, and didn't even know what I was talking about because it just comes to me. But, you know, this intermediate state is also how the Matrix, I think, sees it, because they see it as a transmission or a trans... what did they say on the TV the other day? I can't think of the word, but it essentially means from going from one state to another, or even just from going from a different environment or a different set of circumstances to another, because obviously at the present time people are preoccupied with all these pandemics and epidemics or whatever they are that are you know, going on. A transition, yeah. But, you know, that's also from a human element a transition too, but it's not a transition. It's a transition for them. They want to have transitions to their reality and to their beings and to acknowledgement of them and their God and their reality. Oh, I'm not putting this right. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Whereas human beings are not. Some people might say, well, humans are meant to somehow break through and transcend something. But these words are dangerous words. I don't like any of these words. I don't like all these transitions and these transcending and all this stuff. I really don't. I don't know why. I really don't know why I don't. Because, you know, if anyone wants to transcend this mad matrix, it would be me. But you see, I don't think that it's meant to be like that. I just think that that's because it is also, it could be quite, it's probably quite simple underneath it all. That's how I see it. But then again, I have to keep it simple, as I've said before. So, you know, yeah, we're meant to ignore the reality. So if that's transcending it, yeah, but how do you ignore, you know, you can't ignore being human, and you're not meant to ignore being human, because being human is where you are sensitive to your environment and to where then you are, through your thought and your feelings and your emotions, putting that environment into a solid reality, and making it real. Perhaps we've just made it too real. I don't know. It seems too real to me. It's like impinging on you. It's like, you know, like I want to push a bit of it away. It's too real. It's too solid. It's too harsh. It's too technical. It's too abrasive. It's too loud. It's too intrusive. It's too much of the senses being overwhelmed. You know, I have no problem with this reality. I like the physical. I used to like the physical. I didn't like the mental, because I had been conditioned by the Matrix to be in fear of the physical reality in a way. It's a bit like now where we've got fearful of the pandemic and the germs. That means that you become fearful of the physical. You become fearful to touch something. We should, you know, I've always wanted to embrace the physical, to touch the physical. That's been denied me to some extent, because of fear. And now it is spreading to other people. This is like this person said to me that they were a human being that I don't think they mentioned why, but they said they always like to have a large supply of toilet roll, shall we say. Well, you know, like when this pandemic started, you know, you couldn't get the toilet rolls in the supermarket because some humans, that's like I say, the humans still have the input into the reality. This was pointed out to me, and it's true, because our fears and our things that we've had for a long time are now being used by the reality, because the matrix people, they don't know how to think for themselves. They really don't. They're governed so much by the matrix that, you know, if the humans have a lot of, supplies of toilet rolls, and that is a bit of a preoccupation for a powerful human being, then they will become, because of then the matrix putting this artificial scenario into play, because everything in a matrix is artificial. Everything is played. Everything is the game. There's nothing real in any of it. None of it. So it's testing and pushing the people of the matrix even into that game, and then that spreads. But the whole purpose is to get the humans into it too, because that spreads to other humans. Humans that normally might not, that might not worry about a toilet roll so much, or might not worry about a glove or but also in my case it's just a basic thought thing. Like I myself am pathetical, but I still have good taste. But yeah, you can laugh at that because you say, is she kidding? Well, look, I am kidding, but I'm also not kidding. I am, obviously, I think good taste, but I don't apply it in reality because the matrix has taken over. But, like if I'm passing, the matrix uses the human thought. So if I'm walking past a shop and I see a pretty pattern on something, if I'm in a good mood, but the matrix, I think the matrix is getting fed up with some of us, though. I have to admit that, because although they're still using what I see, think and feel and etc., like if I see a pretty pattern, or, well, a good example of this is like this, right? This is what you call synchronicity, but it relates to a human. Make of it what you will. I'm just saying make of what you will because I haven't figured it out, okay? But like if I go down to the shops right now, and they're actually still open because they've now opened up a bit around here a bit more. So it's push and shove. Not so in some of the states around, but I keep away from the news because I don't want that infiltration in my mind. But it's hard to avoid it because they really shove it. They're like, hey, she thinks she's going to avoid and pretend she's still living in a normal world. No, we're going to shove her with that information because the minute it goes in, you see, I'm receiving too. They receive, but I also receive. Because I'm a human being, I can't help it. I can't dismiss every single thing. You're meant to dismiss a lot in the matrix. But, in a normal world to receive, that's right, all the good stuff. In a natural normal world, you receive everything from around you. You don't receive it quickly like the matrix because it's technologically downloading it. But the human still is the only one that can actually bring it into being. So we do it slowly. They do everything fast, but they're just taking. So therefore they look more impressive. I'm not explaining this right, I have to let it go. But either way, an example is just this, okay? And make of it what you will. I have to fold up. Even making a video gives the matrix energy, the matrix vampires, the matrix energy consuming machine, whatever it is, I don't know, because I do feel, and yet I should be relaxed because I'm assuming that those that listen are not of the matrix, but it's still like that because I'm still playing the matrix game in the pressure of the moment and the time because I know what's going on, whereas I should say, doesn't matter, moment is all that counts. What I think in the moment, if you're a human being, is the all. There is no time. There is no past, present, or future. The past doesn't matter. The future doesn't matter. It's all been played. It's all been decided in a funny kind of way. That's assuming that you take a certain stand, which I'm obviously doing a little bit. But even if you don't want to take it to a higher spiritual type of thing, it is still all about the moment because the human creates and the moment can override everything else because everything revolves around the human only. How the matrix just puts you into that. See, even now, like my head is starting to feel funny. See, so the matrix is overriding me. The matrix is playing with my physical head at a psychological level, but even at a physical level, because humans are sensitive to everything. So, having that negative energy around you, and then with the negative energy around you, suppressing and bringing the body down, then that is like this was described, like where then the defenses are down, your immunity is down, but essentially then you are open to the negative forces infiltrating your body even and your mind, but it didn't make sense there, but then they can they can play to their heart's content. It's like possession. You let that possession take place, and your body is no longer your own. That's at another level, I would imagine, because personally, I just see it as physical, physical distress of the body on the stress on the body. Causes psychological and therefore vibrational and frequency damage, or lowers the frequency and vibration to the extent that then the matrix can use your low frequency or your negative thinking to control other humans, so that then they are negative, and then they will play more in the matrix. They will be more controlled by the matrix, if you want to look at it that way. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I really don't. I've lost it. Where was I? Lost that. I've lost that whole thing. Oh, no, wait on, just before I finish. And these are just minor little details of the matrix, and if you fell asleep by now, perhaps that's okay. But, you probably may even know these things. You probably do. But it is part of that kind of, and I don't fully understand it. But look, it's just the matrix. The matrix shows me every day that it utilises, that, like I said to you, you may laugh at this, but I do have good taste. And I've never considered that I have good taste. I said this to someone a while back, I've always considered that I have what you call common taste. I've often wondered why my taste is common. I thought I'm a very common person. I've actually belittled myself that way because I'm like, I must be very common because all the things that I think, they seem to be common. But that is merely because the matrix, now I think, and I don't know why they do this, because it can only be quite little things. Like, for instance, you might say, well, yeah, I have no taste. because that's what it looks like. See, like, I'm just going to use an example here. Like, see, I've got a pink shirt on, right? No, I do not think this pink shirt is nice. No, I don't. But in my head, I think a certain pink colour is nice. But I'm not wearing it because I couldn't find it and I couldn't be bothered, and I'm too brought down by the matrix. So the matrix has full dominion, like I don't care less, because I don't enjoy the reality. So I'm not comfortable. So I'm like, even at that level. Whereas the matrix ones, they're like, oh, we strut in our little matrix, and yeah, we shall have a pink shirt, and we shall wear it, and we shall enjoy it, and we shall impress the others with it. But in my head, I have a pink colour in my head, but it's not this one. It's a different version of pink. But when I go down the shop, every night there's a few shops as you go into the little mall to get your groceries. They have these little shops, right? Those little bed shop. So just before that, I'm thinking of two colours, or I like two colours, okay, but I never wear them. Or I don't have them in my house. No. But they've got them in the shop. And they do this all the time with the bedspreads. They change it, like, how I like the birds. They've always got bird prints on the bedspreads, always. And then if I thought of an elephant, they'll put an elephant on. But then they know I have the preference more for the birds, and that, yes, it's better taste to put the birds on the thing, so they'll put the birds back. But, the other day I'm thinking of a certain pink colour. And so now they've got the pink and a certain yellow. Because yellow's not a colour that I would normally pick, but it's a certain type of yellow. And they've got the exact yellow on the thing. And it does look quite nice, I might add. That it would be nice on my bed. But instead, my bed's falling apart and it's, I don't have one. So the matrix has a good laugh. But, but because I'm like, hey, I can't stand this reality anyway. So you just give it up. You just say, oh, hell with it. I just want to get out of here, sort of thing. And that's bad too. But because... that's what I was trying to say, was that before the matrix comes down, I was actually starting to think, I was becoming aware of how negative some people were, like I mentioned that. But I was still thinking, hey, I'll avoid that. I'm going to try to make the best of this reality. Like, I haven't got long to go. I didn't realise how little I had to go, because I always said I was going to live to 96. Now I don't even want to. Can you imagine being stuck, putting up with this for the next... and you'd be dilapidated physically, but there again, that was assuming that I stayed physically fit, because I should have, because I was like that when I thought that. Like, I knew that I would stay physically the same for the next 20 years. In other words, I would never get real sick, and I'd still be able, I'm not going to be an athlete or anything, but I would still be able to get round. And I would still be able to maintain a certain level of youth. But the matrix is fighting humans at that level all the time, bringing them at a physiological, is that the word? Aging them, trying to age them, whilst giving their own all the artificial means to stay young. Because a real human doesn't need, not if they're at the reasonable frequency, they don't need as much artificial enhancement to stay even looking okay. I'm going off onto another thing here, but that's actually true. I know this personally, but the matrix can, if the matrix hits you technologically with negative frequencies, negative energies, continuously, you're really fighting it. You're really at that. I can't explain it, but it is so hard to stay. You shouldn't be in that environment. No way. It is not. It is. It's. But it is our reality now. It is my reality. That causes low mentality too, to realise that, because how can you, like, it's one thing to say, oh look, I drink and I smoke too much, so yeah, I'm probably bringing my body down a little bit, okay? You could say that to yourself. Or I eat the wrong foods and all this, and how you find the right foods these days is another thing too. But then again, if you're psychologically depressed, you don't want to actually go on in this reality. So it's a real catch-22 all round, you know. But also, but also there is the element of, it's a real tricky reality. I understand it, but I'm trying to explain it just at a real basic practical level. Like I say, you know, like simple things like that if you enjoy something, even if it's negative, like it's quite possible that even if you do enjoy something that's negative, yes, you defeat yourself, but you still raise the frequency. You know what I mean? So that's the trade-off in this reality, which is bad. In other words, like if I enjoy a drink, right, and that drink may be full of sugar or it may be full of some what they call carcinogenics these days. I've always been accused of that. People say, why do you drink so much of that carcinogenic drink? Like, don't you know that it kills your this and that? And I say, yes, I do know that, but I don't believe it. I never did, even in the past. I'm like, yes, I know that is actually not a positive a substance, but I know that my body can override it. And in the past, it was able to do that because I did it for 40 years and was healthy and ended up getting more and more energy in my later time. You know, like I had worse periods in my past, but that was before the matrix got more dominion. This reality has changed, and also you put yourself in that position to where they've gradually, like I say, they plan these things. It's a stage reality, so they're setting up things. There's no time for them. You know, it's all set up years and years before. You know, they play their game and they're having a great party. You know, their last dance, as that song goes. They've got their last dance going. They've been dancing for quite a while. They only want to dance, but they're also hoping to keep that dance going. I would imagine. Some of them know that that's not possible. But, you know, the old saying, like, I've always said this for years in my life. I always said, live in hope, die in despair. Well, that's a bit like them too, you know. They have their own little spirit too. It's not the same as a human spirit, but at the same time, theirs is more like survival mode. And that's how they like to put us in survival mode too, as you well know, because most humans do live in survival mode. You know, I threw the survival mode away. And I mentioned this before, and I'm repeating myself. I don't know why I'm repeating myself, but that's only. But I'm assuming that maybe some of you haven't listened to all my videos, so they haven't been as long-winded and as patient to have endured my tedious videos for so long. Because I'm sure some of you's given them away at some point, and that's a good idea too. Because it's probably better if. You know, if I'm just repeating myself to go and listen to someone else or do something that might benefit yourself more, I would say that, you know, like it's stupid to keep listening to the same things if you don't get something out of it, you know. It's common sense, you know, if there is any common sense in a matrix. Human beings do have common sense, even though they are spiritual beings, which is a joke. The matrix has no real common sense and certainly has no spirit, but they use everything. So, you know, but even we lose the common sense. You know, that common sense was like that example of people sitting in a wet park, you know. Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about, but where was I? Oh, dear. Yeah, I didn't finish up my thingy, did I? I lost it. It'll come back to me. No, I think I've lost it. So you do have to focus and concentrate and take it slow. That's what I say. You need to take it really slow, but instead the matrix speeds me up, as you can see. They've got you hyped up, they've got you speeded up, they've got you preoccupied, they've got you sidetracked, they've got you bamboozled by the lights and the sound and the show they put on. They've got you feeling anxious, they've got you feeling isolated, they've got you aware of time, aware that things are running out, aware that they've got their game under control. Instead of what you should be doing, as was pointed out to me a fair while ago now, it's all in the moment. And this was the realisation that I come to 3 years ago, and then the matrix just crashed down on me. I just said to myself, look, I now know, I didn't know there was a matrix, no, but I'm like, I know that there are people around me that are negative. I know that there is a lot of psychopathic people. I've said this before, this was my only realisation when the matrix closed down, but it was enough to close down on me. Because I met them personally and I just woke up and thought, wow, I've known one or two, but look, they're all around me. And it was just like, for no reason, it was like just that awareness that even people that were even what you call acquaintances, what that person's a psychopath. And I'm like, oh, it's strange. And I do feel a bit intimidated, but I'm aware of it. And if I just play it and pretend I don't know, just like they play and pretend that they're real people, shall we say, then, or real human, or real emotional, compassionate, caring, a bit like in that, dare I say, it's a bit like in that movie They Live, which I was going to do the thing on 2 years ago when I had the list. Never did that movie, but most people are aware of that are on this side of things. In that movie, those that were not human, were friends with real humans. They'd be like your best friend, sympathising and understanding and caring, but also directing you. So that's the purpose, and that is the matrix, because psychopaths do that. They do like to control and to befriend you, but they will take you down. They won't do things that are going to really benefit you in the long run. They might appear to, but that's just not their mindset. They are indirect disciples of the matrix in a funny kind of way, even though some of them may not be aware of it, some might be 100% aware of it. I don't know that real, whether I don't really know what that real situation is. Sometimes they give me the impression that they are aware and that they're just pretending that they don't know, because they're certainly all pretenders. They're great pretenders, as is the God entity, is that song, The Great Pretender. I think I used that in a video too, and it occurred to me. Great pretender. The great, you emphasise the word great pretender. But either way, but it's but there's more to it than that, because it is a mind, a game. It is a mind game that this being even. Like, you can understand the mentality, but the physicality of it still defeats me or is elusive to me, shall we say, because that has probably changed over time too. See, humans are not really meant to change at all. They're not meant to be evolving or transitioning or changing, in my opinion anyway. That's my humble opinion. Any change of a human being at a physical or technical level is a destructive decision, and is not going to make for a better reality, and not going to make for survival of human beings at all. That's assuming that you're even meant to survive in this reality, but that was a stupid comment. But I'm just going to say that was a stupid comment. But stupid comment. But I was just going to say that when the Matrix, I repeat this for anyone that might just be randomly new or something, but look, when the Matrix opened up, came down, exposed itself to me 3 years ago, 3 and a bit now actually, but just before that, I had the realisation that I was surrounded by a society of negative people or psychopathic minds, okay? Narcissistic, psychopathic minds, whatever you like, whatever terminology you want to use. I'm not big on all this. But I also come to the conclusion or realisation, depending on, or at least a decision in my own personal life. I sort of said, hey, look, I don't want to be controlled. Because, I saw it as control by negative people. Because, psychopaths like to control. And I don't want to be controlled by negative people. I don't want to be controlled by people full stop. I don't mind being friends with people if they are friendly towards me. But I don't want controlling people around me. Especially people that are controlling me with no thought for me being at, full potential, or even as I just want to be. They'll squash the slightest thing. If you say, oh yeah, it's, let's do this or that today, or even if you want to do, I could use so many examples, I could use a million examples. And they'll promise you things, they'll always set you up to where they're going to help, but they'll never ever really do anything that's a real benefit for you, not unless it benefits them. They'll do it begrudgingly, even if it benefits them and you at the same time, but that's when they will do it. But they do that begrudgingly because they don't really want to benefit you, because they don't want you to outshine them. I don't shine if you don't shine, the song says. But they don't want you to outshine them. That's their mindset. The Matrix wants its beings to shine, not any humans. Humans are meant to be dull and kept in the dark and suppressed and not meant to shine at all. Not with their own light, much less anyone else shining on them. No, that's not how, they don't want that. They can't have that. It probably seems a bit petty, and they are petty too. That's another aspect of the Matrix, God and its beings and psychopathic people. They are so petty. They begrudge humans the most stupid things. Most humans would even say, hey, that's not a big deal. Like even I say, it's not a big deal if I think that yellow colour is okay. It's not a big deal, my little things. They really aren't. Not at even a human level. I'm a low-level human. But to the Matrix and its beings, that is a big deal. They're petty. They don't want you to shine in even the slightest little way. That's just the way they are. Whether it's necessary or whether it's even the real truth is another thing. It doesn't seem to matter to them. They just tend to begrudge and be envious and that way about everything. And we can all be like that, because you get infiltrated by the Matrix. You become very pettily competitive, even if that's the right way of looking at it. I used to be like this myself, not as bad as most, no, not in the same class as most other people, no, not as in the same class as the psychopaths of the Matrix. And that's only the human version of people in the Matrix. The demigods are a different class all their own. They're in an elite class all their own. But, what class that really is, don't ask me. Maybe one day I'll figure it out. Perhaps I'm frightened to figure it out. I already figured out enough, and like I say that in that song, it's the terror of knowing what this world is all about. Yeah, they mock and throw it in your face. Because actually, even if you're just controlled at a work level, it's not really a terror. But there really is a terror as well. It's a terror of knowing when you know what the whole thing is. Yeah, because it's not like you're just going to be controlled in a little way to where, yeah, you might be controlled by having to work in a certain job that, that does restrict you a little bit. You may not even like your job. But even if you do, everything is part of the matrix. We know that. Even a society is a matrix thing. But you still think, oh, well, look, I'm still free. I can still have my days off and I can still do this and I can still do that. And that's why the matrix allows you to do that. The matrix is closing down, as we well know now, or trying to close down. It's trying to close down even people's basic living, if you want to look at it that way, to where there is to where you're a lot more restricted, but that you will welcome that restriction, that you think it's necessary. This is just more of the matrix games at this time. We have different periods in time where the matrix will. I guess I don't fully understand all this, but I think that at different periods of time, the matrix resorts to different things to direct humans to, yes, transition into a different lifestyle. And those that of us that can't manage that. See, I can't manage that even if I wanted to, even if I wanted to be part of the matrix. Just for the safety and comfort, shall we say, so that, you get a little bit of let up. I just may not be able to manage it. Because, if you've lived a limited, restricted life anyway, and then they say, oh, look, we want you to live even more limited and restricted, But it can happen, and people are being set up that way, and I'm being set up that way. Because whilst I can sit here now and say, hey, I won't buy that, I won't tolerate that, I won't do this, I won't do that. Look, they can make it a reality. They can make it a physical reality. And then you do accept, because don't forget, you're being compromised all the time. I'm being compromised all the time. The fact that I can break through just sometimes and I'm still forcing myself, working against it, it is against the odds. I feel that there is something that I'm missing. The matrix is still hiding to some extent. Not to everyone, but still hiding to real human beings, I think. Apart from myself and some others. Okay? But, it has deliberately not hidden from me, so it's not like I've just found it out, as I've said before. So that's its choice for its own reasons, whereas others, it's still playing them and hiding. And it has its own reasons for that, because like I say, I'll just finish up here and then I'll definitely fold up. It's getting late. I, just before the matrix opened up, I remember very clearly thinking to myself, I'm surrounded by negative people. But I know this now, I will avoid the negative people. But what is the most important thing for me now? I had it all wrong. Or did I? This is getting personal here, if you're still with me, which I doubt. But before the matrix closed down on me. Years and years ago, I'm going back in time now, someone said to me, someone that I didn't see very often, but I had a reasonable chat with them when I met them, sometimes 5 years apart, but not relevant. But I remember they said to me that what they thought was the most important thing in their life and in the world was freedom. And they said to me, what do you think is the most important thing for you personally? They said freedom for themselves personally. I said, and I didn't even think about it, it just blurted it out and it made no sense to me, but I said redemption. They didn't query me on it, and I didn't query their freedom. I thought, hey, what do you need freedom for? We are free. That was in the old world, of course. This was like 20 years ago, okay? Do I still want redemption? Or do I now think maybe he was right? Because 3 years ago, after experiencing, the restrictions of what psychopathic people can even put on you, where freedom, because you realise they want to control you, so they want to restrict your freedom. They really don't care what you do, but they do want to restrict your freedom because just at a psychological level, they seem to resent a real human having that freedom, even though they have that same freedom. It's just a control issue with them, as it is with the God entity and this whole matrix reality. Am I putting this right or not? I don't think I am. I'm sorry about that. I would like to put these things better. I don't know how to explain it really, but I said to myself 3 years ago, just before the matrix closed down, opened up and closed down on me, as I say, came down, then I did an about turn, and I wasn't thinking about this redemption or this freedom incident of years ago or what is really important to you, but I just said to myself, consciously, I said to myself, look, I'm a certain age, but I think I will live a long time, but I'm like, hey, I think that I'm physically being made to deteriorate by the negative energy of people around me, by psychopathic people, and it was causing a physical deterioration of my body. And I thought, hey, I'm not going to last long if I keep interacting with these people. And so fear set in. And so I said, I've got to rid myself of negative people, negative energies around me, because these people I knew were negative energy for me. I knew they were, because they were restricting me at a spiritual level. And I say spiritual because I didn't believe in spiritual then, but I knew that it was restricting my mental, my mind. I now say that is spiritual, but it was like I was aware that they were affecting my mind, which was affecting my body and aging my body, bringing my body down, making it pain and sick and deteriorate, age, if you want to look at it that way. And I knew it was being directly caused by psychological negative people. And I couldn't control it. I thought if I can control it, I don't have to break away. But I couldn't control it. I could feel I looked it up, and I'm getting scientific or medical here, and I don't even believe in all this stuff, but I was releasing enormous amounts of stress hormones into the body, or they have a name for it. It's a particular chemical. I don't know all these things because I'm ignorant that way, but I remember at the time, and I could feel it. even when I was trying to relax, because I wasn't unaware of the matrix at this time, and the matrix was not openly infiltrating my body or my mind openly. It was covert. I blamed it on the people at the time, or people that were around me. And that was partly true, but it wasn't the whole picture, but I didn't know that at the time. But either way, I said, if I can separate from the people, which I realised there were more of them, or keep my distance from them, then I can save my physical life. That was a big mistake, I now think, even though you would say, hey, no, you made the right choice. But no, of course I didn't, because the matrix then completely come down, because they knew that, yes, that if the matrix didn't exist, or if the matrix didn't come down, it would have probably worked out. I would have had a reasonably comfortable remaining life. Because I said to myself mentally, I don't care. Now, my body is deteriorating. I may have 6 months to go, or I may have 6 years, or I may have 20. But whichever way you look at it, if I don't stop this, my body will deteriorate faster, and I may even end up dead. And I actually said to myself, it doesn't matter if I'm going to be dead in 3 months. This was a mistake, I now say, because I forgot about the redemption. But freedom is important too. So it was a dilemma. But the fact that the matrix come down meant that I kind of made the right choice. But either way, the point is that I'm getting at is that I made that decision in my mind, and in the physical reality, I acted on it after a long period of thinking and getting fearful. So I said, hey, if I've only got 3 months left to live even, I want to live it without psychopathic intervention. I want to live it where I am free. Just give me 3 months even of freedom. I'll take that in return for this reality that was now. But that was before the matrix. I was only about realising that there were a lot of psychopathic people that were trying to control. I didn't want to be controlled. I couldn't stand that control. But also I thought the control, even when I started to accept controlling people, I thought that the control was going to deteriorate my body. So I became preoccupied with my body. So redemption out the window in preference for the health and the youth of the body, if you want to look at it that way. That was a mistake too, because I didn't realise that I could not control the health and the youth of my body anymore. I thought that if I could eliminate the negative psychopathic people that were bringing the body down, that were bringing my mind down and then bringing the body down. I know, look at this is complicated even for me, but at the time I understood it quite well, because it was a practicality. You know, like I've told people this, but I never had a headache in my entire life up to that point. You know, I was nearly 60, right? Before that, I was 30 years younger, most of my life, at a physical level. I've said this before. And I'd never experienced a headache in my life. And I was being hit by migraine headaches on the side of my face and all down this left eye. Excruciating pain that even took me to a hospital. And I was fearful of hospitals and wouldn't go near them, and never had to. And it would just hit me when I was walking, out of the blue, no reason. I associated it with psychopathic people stressing me. I knew that at the time, because I knew I'd never had. It was like a migraine headache on a big scale. This is just a physical example of before the matrix. Of course, I now realise that was a matrix infiltration. Sure, psychopathic people can have can combine with the matrix to upset you and to restrict you, and that can cause problems. But now that I've seen the full potential of the matrix, of what it can do at a physical level on the body, I have serious doubts about what my perception of that whole scenario really was. I know they combine and they use humans and they use psychopaths and they use all sorts of situations that I don't fully understand. And either way, even if you understand that someone else is being controlled by the matrix, that's still not going to stop them controlling and restricting your life, or making you sick, or making you distressed, or making you depressed. I was never depressed. I didn't know how to be depressed properly. I was never on top of the world in my entire life, but I always kept... I used to think that I was depressed because I knew that human beings are meant to live at a much better level. I knew there was potential there all my life. But I was really never depressed now when I think of it. But I just was aware that I was not living. I was not living as a human being should live. That I was not getting a real lot of joy out of life. But I was never really depressed. Because when you're depressed, I think that's when you want to walk away from life, want to walk away from people and the reality where you've given it up. No, I never, ever had that mindset. I've said this 1,000 times, I don't have a suicidal bone in my body. But the matrix, when you see the matrix at full force, that does what you make you want to walk away. That's why I became aware of the matrix and to see how lethal and how negative it is, because in fact, like I say, if you were not aware that that's how they want you to think and want you to be, then even though you feel that and think that, you're like, I'm not going to go for it, because that's what you're playing the game. You're playing what they want. They want you to not like this reality. They don't want you to like this world. They want you to hate it. They want you to hate everything in it, because then that is negative frequency vibration. And I'll tell you what, it's a battle not to. It is a battle not to. Someone like me never loved or hated it before. I was neutral almost, in a way. And I was quite happy to be neutral 3 years ago. I'm like, hey, no longer looking to be ecstatic. I would just appreciate not being controlled. Like that fella said, freedom. I was just happy going to go into the reality and say, look, I'll just be happy to live quietly and not be controlled by other people. That will be enough for me. I'll be neutral. I won't, and I'll be happy being neutral. I won't have expectations of even being overly happy, but I will probably end up accidentally, that's right, the Matrix knew this, that I'd end up becoming accidentally happy because I would just value the freedom like that fella talked about. In other words, the freedom of just not being controlled by psychopathic people around you. That was my mindset. Just give me, even if I only got 6 months to go, whatever time I got left, because I was thinking, I don't care now. But I'm not giving up. I just don't care. Whatever time I've got left, I will spend that being at least just my own person, just doing what, even if it's only just going down to the shop and picking up a bottle of milk. I'll do it when I feel like it. And if I feel like doing something else, I will. If I can and I feel like it, I'll do it. And I'm like, hey, the world isn't so bad without psychopathic people around you. Yeah, I could theoretically even just get on a bus and go and look at this or that. And then the Matrix said, no, you're not. You think you get rid of a few psychopathic people that we're going to let you do that? No. And that's what happened. So that's just me very badly or poorly chronologicalizing what has happened to me over the last few years and why I think it happened and how dangerous the Matrix sees human beings that to think that they can make even a simple negative reality into something positive. That, you know, that they wake up and say, yeah, there's still some good. I don't know how to explain that, but I did think that, but I did opt for that freedom thing of what that fella said, as opposed to the redemption. I can't explain that in detail. I could if I had more time and if you knew my past and my personal relationships and my failings in life and really not what the videos are supposed to be about, but I only use these examples because I don't know why, but I don't want to because it's that I kind of have given up that kind of pretense now because, you know, if you really do think that the world is going to be over tomorrow almost, you know, that's why I don't understand the psychopathic mentality because it's like, you know, these people are fighting for a pretend reality right to the last, you know, and you'd think that they would be like myself saying, hey, look, got to put all our differences aside now and go back to what we really wanted to do or what we should have done. Oh, I don't think I'm putting that right. Should I have stuck with redemption instead of opting for freedom? Because surely freedom is as much a good thing as redemption. But you see, redemption was my failing. Whereas if I had solved that, then I could have, then the freedom thing would have been more valid. But either way, I still say that freedom thing threatened the Matrix because, and you know, from a Matrix point of view, both those things were dangerous. I think, in my own personal life, anyway. But I'm not making sense here to you, and I am actually getting a Matrix headache right this very moment. You know, that is no, headaches are all of the Matrix. There's no reason that you yourself should give yourself a headache. Yeah, because even intense thinking and figuring things out is fine. This is technology, I personally think. This is because we live in a technological world. So, you know, even though it is distressing for me to think over my life and to think of the failing of the redemption and the loss of the freedom and the futility of fighting and playing in a matrix in some ways, because you do feel futile. It is still, and the dog is giving me an indication that I'm correct. Look, you can say what you like, but the dog does give you what you call the thumbs up. And the matrix does that in many ways. It will sometimes just, this is synchronicity when you've got to that way of looking at things. Does the matrix have to give you indications if you're correct? Does it just enjoy mocking you by doing it, as if to say, well, you figured it all out a little bit late, you know? What's the point in you saying, oh, you should have went for redemption and freedom when you can't do that now? You've lost your redemption. if you had done the right things earlier on, you wouldn't have needed redemption and you would have had freedom, maybe. I don't know. That's interesting, isn't it? But I just assumed that, yeah, well, that was the dilemma that I was put in over the last maybe 5-6 years, because certainly there was, or even 7 years, in the sense that my life kind of went right downhill in those 7 years. But like I've said before, you always, you don't, if you knew that you're in a matrix and that things were planned that way, you would operate differently. Your reactions to things would be different. But now, because the matrix is all around and all intrusive, you don't even have as much control over your reactions. I don't have, like in the past, I would have had more choice into how I reacted to things. Whereas now, because it's everywhere, your reactions are being controlled almost exclusively by the matrix. That's what they call, where they focus on you personally at an intense level, if you want to look at it that way. They probably have all along, but where they think it becomes necessary. They do have a name for these things, but I'm not going to go into that. I better fold up because I've made another nonsensical video, and I was supposed to be doing that song, Losing My Religion. I did record it off the TV. I recorded it a couple of times, but I failed in my thing, but I don't know if I've got it right this time. I only did that so that you could look at it, because you might get more out of it yourself by just looking at the video as opposed to me rambling and trying to analyse something that I only half understand. But all the music is of the matrix, and it all fits into the reality, and they do show you their truth and yours in the music. That's why we like it. That's why we relate to it. I thought it was a profound song 20 odd years ago when it first came out. But, I did not understand it. But I still thought it was profound. And obviously, yes, it's got its good melody and it's got its whatever, as the Matrix are very good at doing. But, it's like you don't comprehend the full implications or the full understanding of the music at all. Until you realise what the real reality is, you interpret the music only at a personal, individual, one-on-one level, and you assume that's what the artists or the demigods of the Matrix are doing, and they are not. They're singing to you, and you assume they're singing to another person, whether it be someone they have loved or want to love or have lost it. But it never is. It is always relating to their status in the matrix, and to their relationship to their God entity, and etc., etc. The rest is just downloading the human input or the human emotion and the human feelings and how humans think, in order to create a song that entrances me and you, which it does, and which it did, but without full understanding usually. I'm not saying that some people didn't understand it fully back then. Maybe there were. Maybe they're the ones that are a little bit at a higher level right now somewhere in the world. I don't know. That's possible. only speak for myself and say that I was totally ignorant and totally entranced and full appreciation, but really in the dark as to the true meaning of the song, and still don't fully comprehend it, but understand it at a matrix level a lot more now than back then, which was why I was going to do the video on it. But anyway, I better fold up. Good night, or good day. If on some other part of the world it's probably a totally different time time. Totally different time. But, you know, in a funny kind of way, you know, humans should all be of the one time because we're all connected, or should be all connected. Even if we weren't connected, we should be connected at this time, even if you are the most limited human being, because the less limited human beings, because we're all limited, but some are more or less. This is just how I see it. This is how I see it personally, because you know, it is desperation of trying to get some sort of breakthrough into the matrix, and you know, because we are very desperate, you any kind of uplifting advice, or as the saying goes, some people will be a benefit just by being there. You know, but there is, and I have not made any sense here. Good night.